Ron Piper is a Maryland-based photographer who will be providing some feedback, and I've got this collapsed too close for me to be able to read it. Sorry, I have to do a little adjustment. Okay, here we go. Providing feedback and placements for tonight's competition. He has been shooting all of his life from box cameras and film, starting in the 50s and 60s through the digital area. He had leadership roles in public education in Maryland for 4 decades before being able to focus his attention back on photography beginning in 2010. He has done a limited amount of commercial and real estate photography, but prefers to concentrate on travel and art photography in recent years. He shoots a variety of subjects and enjoys travel photography, landscapes, close-ups, and sports subjects. He does some IR and color work and says he seems to revert to black and white more frequently than color. He is not opposed to employing post-processing tools to achieve his vision in a good photo. His local camera club, the 63-year-old, I don't know how to say that, Arundel Camera Club in Severna Park, Maryland, has provided a competitive yet nurturing photography education for him, with club photographers being competitive with any state in the state of Maryland. He has competed there for a decade and has won numerous awards, including Photographer of the Year in 2017, 19, and 20. Ron is a member of the leadership team for the Maryland Photography Alliance, which supports the work of 24 community photography clubs statewide. He is certified by the MPA to judge photography competitions and judge club level contests across the region. He has been selected to display images in gallery shows sponsored by the MPA. Ron is also the VP of the Creative Photography Society of Baltimore, which provides educational programs for regional photographers. His website is www.ronpiper.com. And real quick, Ron, I just wanted to ask you, you got Photographer of the Year this year. How are you guys meeting?
Just the way you all are meeting tonight. We scaled back we don't do any prints anymore. We'll get back to that hopefully after all this is over.
Yeah, we did the same thing. That's why we have two digital image competition nights.
Oh.
All right, so welcome everybody. Merry Christmas. Tonight is our general color and monochrome competitions. We have, let me see here, I'm going to share my screen. First of all, I'm going to mute everybody except for for Ron and myself. Hold on a second. Ron can unmute himself if he would.
Okay.
There we go. All right. So let me share my screen. Everybody see that? Ron, can you see it?
Yep. Sounds
Okay.
good. Looks good.
All right. So we have in our monochrome category tonight, we have 33 entries. We have 5 places and 5 honorable mentions. So let's get going on. First image is going to be Lynchon, Marguerite Hill, or Lycan, sorry.
Okay. Are you going to go through all of them first, or do you want me to just do them as you go?
Just do them as we go.
Okay, that's perfect. Every club does it a little bit differently.
Mhm.
So I taught biology for a few years, so anything has to do with plants, lichen, fungus, and all that. Really am interested in trying to capture these things. I've had a lot of poor luck with it because it's difficult to get it and get interesting compositionally, get interesting pictures. They're good for abstracts. Lichen are a little difficult for black and white. This one would be out. Is that the way, Sean?
Yeah, this was not chosen.
Okay.
However you want to phrase it, was not picked as a placing.
Okay, not picked. All right. So part of the reason is, first of all, I really like the texture. I think that you did a great job in terms of capturing the texture and the patterns. probably would be really interesting in color, although 90% of the time I like to go to black and white if it's got any interest to it. Second thing has to do with that light spot in the back, that light area in the back gets to be a bit distracting. So any of the light areas that aren't part of the main subject, we need to kind of pare back the and crop it down. One of the things I really believe in is take the picture and then crop the picture to meet the composition.
Sorry.
So,
My fault.
okay. And if I get talking too much on one picture, Sean, let me know. I can easily shut up.
All right, I'll do that.
Okay, please do.
All right, next image is capturing pup's first hike, Nina Kumar.
You know, this is a pretty interesting approach to this because I'm now 73, so getting down on my knees isn't quite as much fun as it used to be, but you need to do that, either high or low, or whatever, but you want to get down close to your subject. And when you can shoot low, particularly when you have a nice vantage point of these, the boards on the bridge kind of converging in the back there, it all really comes together. There's a little snag with this picture, which is the cell phone in the front left corner. So it would be helpful to kind of trim that out in Photoshop or crop it in a little bit closer, because you can really lose a little bit of the background, the margins on the side, a couple inches on each side, and get away with it. The other thing I might suggest to the photographer on this is I think they're upright, the posts on the left and the right. I think they should be vertically perfectly straight, and it might be good to just fiddle with Photoshop and see if you can, or Lightroom, see if you can get that standing up a little bit so that doesn't become a distraction, or crop it out. But great zone in on the puppy. The guy's face is, I would like to have seen that a little bit more. It might have been a more interesting picture had it been a brighter face. So that's sort of some thoughts on that picture.
Okay. Next up is Icy Plant, Nina Kumar.
Okay, I struggled a little bit with this because I wasn't sure if it was ice, and then I finally decided, since you all up a few miles north of where we are, you're probably more experienced with ice and so on. So that seemed to be the case. This is another one with a lot of texture, and that's really good. Sharp as a tack on these, and I think they're leaves. Now, so the problem is with shooting leaves and things like this is, do you want it to be an abstract and not recognize what the subject is, or do you want it to be a bit of an abstract and then have the viewer look at it and then suddenly realize what they're looking at? And that revelation sometimes really knocks people back in their chair when they realize what they're doing. I had a little trouble with this one because the leaf is a little bit blurry on the front left corner, and I kept going up to the bright leaf on to the right. It was really good, sharp there, but there was a lot around this that just kept my eyes going different places. I wouldn't have any problem with taking this picture and trying to crop it in a little bit, maybe even on this leaf to the right, and see if that really compositionally worked a little bit better. So just food for thought.
Is hunting season over yet? Barb Lawton.
Okay. What a great capture. Be able to be out and capture. We've seen more deer in this area over the summer than we've ever seen, and be able to be out and get these an image like this, along with the bonus, I guess there are pheasants or quail beside it. Even though I was a biology teacher, I didn't make it to class the week we did quails and pheasants, but it's really nice and sharp on both of those deer, and pretty good and sharp with the birds as well. And there are some advantages to going with a wide panoramic crop like this, and I think that almost worked with this. But what I also found was that it just went straight left to right, and you kind of did bird, deer, bird, deer. And sometimes when you look at an image, it's more interesting if you're kind of going from the front to the back through the image and kind of letting the image walk your eyes through it. So that's one of the reasons I didn't select this one, because as really nice as it is, I just had a hard time with the linear composition left to right on here. That's maybe personal taste more than some rule of thumb.
Okay. Next up, selfie smooch, Rip Schreibstein.
Okay, well this is a really interesting capture because you had the phone, you could see it happening on the phone over there. That was blurred. That was fine. You got a lot of texture in the guy's head. And actually, when I look at this, I end up getting obsessed with the texture and the back of the guy's head. And then secondarily, I go over and I pick up the woman on the left. So on this one, this is be a really interesting picture to try a couple of different things with it. One might be how important is that cell phone for the picture? Would it be any better if you just let the cell phone out of the picture and cropped in directly on the man and the woman? And if the subject is the smooch, skip the selfie. I think that really kind of works better than the whole thing. So, that's where the action is. The other question I have is I've been processing black and white in a similar tonality to this lately, which is to say that the light tones are lighter than usual. And I've had variable success with it. I'm wondering if this might have more impact, and that's really what this is about. It's not the technical stuff, it's the impact. Would this have more impact if we looked for more contrasting and dropping down the light tones a little bit, because right now it's very light, and I think there's some dark areas here that if you had more contrast in it, it just might leap off the page and give you a lot more impact. So just food for thought on that.
Okay. Next up is library shadows, Nancy Funtner.
Yeah, going in libraries and museums and so on, and trying to capture the light. It's just a terrific thing. There are any number of places where they just give you some terrific abstract opportunities like this. This is quite interesting. My eyes immediately went to the diamond shapes in the back, and then off to the left and off to the right. And this is exactly opposite of what you might expect, because usually your eye goes to the lightest thing first, and then it's a kind of medium tone in the middle. So I think there's a picture here. I think I would have wanted to kind of walk around there and take it from a few different angles and see if something would cause my eye to follow through the image. Right now, what happens is I'm going from diamond to verticals to linears and so on, and it's moving from one area to the next. And I would like the picture to be able to lead my eye to a subject. So that's sort of my reaction to it. But I have to say that the processing is really nice in this image. The sharp as a tack and the good contrast on it. So this just again more thought on that. And as an abstract goes, again, if you have it more singular focus, that just might take it to the next level.
Okay, next up is Evergreen Beauty, Claudia Czekabowski.
Okay. Yeah, I went through a Greenmount Cemetery in Baltimore, which was dates back to the 1700s. A year ago, I guess. It seemed like, I don't know what happened to the last year, but mostly inside. But it was one of the most wonderful experiences, and I can see that having these old statues with usually pollution driving all this dark and staining on the old marble and granite, and you all have real snow up there, so you have the advantage of getting some texture and color in it, so it makes it much more interesting. I didn't select this one because the shrubbery, the tree and so on the left has a lot of, I won't say, I guess busyness is the way it is. I look at it, my eyes kind of getting distracted with that. When I really want to look at this statue off to the right, and this is another one of those, that's really your focus. It's not that the tree adds as much to it as you might think, but what a great place. This is someplace that could really build into some nice captures. And I would maybe crop that over and get it down to just the right-hand third and see how that affects you. But again, the tonality on the processing is really nice on this. You capture a lot of texture in the statue. So,
Okay. Next up, Last of the Daisies, Barb Lawton.
okay, this is really a fascinating approach to capturing flowers, and flowers are really hard to capture and make them interesting because everybody shoots them. But to be able to get one, and this one has very much the feel of a piece of art. Obviously, for the background, I'm not sure if that's the original background or whether the subject is put on it. But the different judges are, I've noticed lately, and I've been participating in as a participant in about 250 contests over the last decade. And the trend lately has been judges have been drawing back a lot from these photographically altered images that look like art like this. Some of them this is beautiful and really interesting. And I had to struggle a little bit at first to make sure it was exactly what I thought it was. So I guess this is one of those, I didn't select it because you had an awful lot of good images in here, but I'd also, as a photography, be think about the competitions in the future, whether you're going to find a judge that's really receptive to something with this kind of this kind of approach. It's really nice.
Next up is Happy Coffee, Rich Schreibstein.
Okay, wow. I tell you, I admire folks who can get out there with a camera and really just capture the vibe on the street, do good street photography. I'm too shy to do it right. I know a lot of people that just go out there with a camera and just grab people just like this and point the camera and grab it. This was a composition thing, and because I don't do as much street photography, I have a great deal of respect for it. I've got studied it quite a bit and try to figure out how to do this better. So on the right hand side, this guy is got an interesting face. It's really interesting to see this collection of the chairs, and then the poster in the middle of the window. The posters, all of the collection, and like a regular coffee shop. So I think it all comes together. I think that for some reason the picture divides into two for me, because you got the corner of the building, and then it's the window in the front, which is one picture for me. And then you have the guy at the coffee on the left. I think it's two pictures. So I think that I don't think you need to have the stuff over there in order to pick him up. I think both of them could stand alone if you just cropped it into two. But that was my take on it. I hope that doesn't make any. I hope that makes some sense anyway.
Okay, next up is Boo, Jerry Runt.
Yeah. Now here's I really think it's great for people to get out and likewise with the last image, getting the Black Lives Matter sign. I went over to Washington, D.C., since it's only a 45-minute drive from my house, and walked through Black Lives Matter Plaza recently and just took some pictures there. It just had such a contemporary feel, and we need to be out as photographers documenting this time, because it's real different between the pandemic and the social unrest and the election. Everything is real different, and hope we all remember what it looks like 20 years from now. So I applaud the photographer for capturing this. This is really a good one, and it's a good juxtaposition, having these statues behind the pieces of art behind the two folks down in the front, but both pretty well had it with masks and pandemic and social distancing and so on, obviously. So a question I have, just when I look at this, is I love to tilt things periodically. I'm trying to think, did the tilt on this take it to the next level or not? I mean, obviously it's an unsettled time. It may have more impact if it were tilted even more. But I would also try to square it up a piece and see what that does. So I think that's one of the things that made me want to set this out. I like the capture. I do have to try to think about how my eyes traveling through the picture. I didn't capture the people down on the curb first, and they really are where my eyes should have gone first, I think. So that's what I kind of felt, that it didn't quite have the impact that I was looking for. But what a great opportunity to be at that time and a place and grab that. So anyway, I don't know if that makes any sense or is of any help to the maker.
Next up is Biker Brothers, Jerry Runt.
Okay. Now, you know what, this picture, I love the interaction between these two guys. And I love the tonality of this print as well, this photograph. I'm really distracted, and I hate this, it sounds like I'm being picky. I'm really distracted by the sun glaring off the windshield of that Hyundai in the background. And so instead of spending my time looking at these two guys, my eye keeps getting drawn to that flash. And I think there's a story between these two guys. It's a real good capture. And it may be that you can go back in and tone that flash down, the reflection, so that you can really concentrate on the two main characters.
Next up is Prisoner, Joe Catronio.
Okay. I've also been having trouble lately with judges that come in and look at an image and try to figure out how it was made and decide whether it's okay, whether it's composited or not. And I had that same trouble in my own mind. I'm going to shut up about that topic. I just want to look at the image the way it is and react to it. Number one, I really like the fact that you've got the wall in the background is tilted. That just shows creates some tension in the image. I like the vignette. I think that really helps to make this work. I think that the profile, the silhouette, is very perfectly placed on here, with a little bit of distance out in front of his nose, which you do want to have when you have a sideways profile of a silhouette, rather. So there are just an awful lot of good images in the competition, and you're going to have to find a judge who is not concerned about the way the picture's made, and you're going to have to get the right competition in order for this to get placed. But I really think it's creative, and I think it's innovative. I'd put this up on my wall, certainly.
Okay, next up is Horse Farm, Kim Koza.
Okay. So this is my question. I love the impact of those clouds. I mean, they are just crisp and clear. And sometimes folks get into the mix with Lightroom, and they just get so textured, the clouds, that they just look ugly. These look really nice, and they have a good, comfortable feel. So my eye immediately goes up to those clouds. I feel really good about the picture. I look down at the foreground. I think it was a right decision not to leave any more of the foreground in than that. The concern and why I didn't pick it for placement is I was trying to, again, look at the image for where my eye would go and what I would learn in doing this. it doesn't tell me quite the story I'd like. I don't know what that building is, and it raises all kinds of questions. If it were had a sign or something on it, and like an old broken down barn or something, it might have a more interesting story. The other thing is there's a building behind it, and I'm trying to figure out what that is too. So I'm just sort of fighting with myself to kind of figure out what all these structures are in the front, what their purpose is. Is it a horse race, is it a a racetrack, or what is it? And so it's sort of two pictures. It's the bottom is these buildings, which may be a picture unto itself, these wonderful clouds up at the top. And I just don't think that the building at the bottom really supports those beautiful clouds the way that they could. Another angle from that, maybe they would all speak in harmony a little bit better. I don't know. But that said, terrific tonality on this and nice processing.
Okay, next up is Bird, Carol Bell.
Okay, this bird is really interesting photograph, because my mind is working with this and trying to figure it out. Is it a real bird? Is it a glass sculpture? What is it? I don't know. So and having it cut in half the way it is, it makes it kind of again, it really messes with your mind. So there's a lot of space on the left-hand side of this image that don't contribute to the composition. So I think that cropping it in further might help. I'm not sure what what the message is with the bird cut in half there. There may be something I'm missing, so that doesn't quite work. The stone along the bottom, or the ledge along the bottom, probably would just work a little bit better in this picture if it were toned down, not quite as bright, but otherwise. So interesting mind bender of a picture. A couple crops, a couple other things might help to make that go a little bit better.
Okay. Next up is Church Steeple, Paul the Keith.
By the way, it sounds like I'm being real critical of these pictures tonight, and I'm not. These are, I really admire folks taking risks with photographs, doing something really different, and being creative. And the thing is, so many of these are just so technically sharp, crisp image, well processed, and not a lot of overblown areas and things like that. So I'm sorry if I'm sounding negative. I'm just trying to think about ways to really take a picture to another level. And this is one of those that it just technically I see snow's a little blurry, and it shows motion. That's okay with me. You've got this belfry, the tower, and you got the top of the building. So obviously the church steeple is the subject. The snow is really an important part of an important element here, but I'm feeling uncomfortable when I look at it, because I really want, in the worst way, to know what the rest of the church looks like. And sometimes, and you couldn't have done that and picked up the snow in the sky the way this was. So there was a kind of creative, artistic decision that you just have to struggle with. What's the important thing for you as a photographer? Is the snow, the steeple, front of the church, and so on. You made a decision here to go with the sky, and it still left me scratching my head trying to figure out what was happening with the front of the church. But this thing is really processed quite well, and you did a really nice capture with what it is there. But that's just my reaction to it anyway, for what that's worth.
Okay, next up is Rackwick Bay Orkney, Dow Smith.
Okay, yeah, wow. Okay, looks like a good time of the day for this picture, and just a gorgeous setting, absolutely gorgeous setting. And I do not know Rackwick Bay, Orkney. That's maybe Ireland. I'm not sure. Um, this is a difficult one with very dark cliffside area on the left-hand side, upper left-hand side. The face of the cliff here is very light, very bright in areas, and I'm missing some detail that I might get otherwise. Then you've got the surf down in the front, and it's very, very bright there. You've got the tonality about right for the strip of land along the foreground in the front. Then you've got the clouds off to the other side. So you think about the tonality range there. It runs from really, really bright with the water, medium bright, then the sky, and then this very dark area over here. And I'm missing some detail. So let's say, is it placed properly in this, in the frame? Probably so. You could probably even crop it in from the left a little bit, because I'm not sure all of that barren cliffside area contributes to the image, because I really want to look at this image, the sort of the end of the cliff out straight ahead, the cliffside, the top of that rock in that area. I would think about toning down that all of the white area, drop all of the light area down a little bit, and then try to the cliffside, try to get some more detail out of that, and try to get a little more detail out of the clouds too. So there, I mean, there's such an awful lot of elements in this picture. I think a little cropping, a little bit of play with it could take it to the next level too.
Okay, next up is You Go First, Alan Wiggins.
Well, yowzer. Okay. I've been doing a lot of hiking this last 9 months, and ran across a few places just like this. Good capture and a good color, good processing. You got reasonably good light and dark and contrast. You know, that all works pretty well. I have a hard time with photographs of people when you don't see their face. So what's the subject here? Is it the bridge or is it the person? Well, you need the person to get the context to understand why this bridge and dock is so decrepit area is really so interesting. So putting the two together was the right thing. It would be one of these. This is why I'm a terrible street photographer. If you could have worked a little bit with the subject there and get him to get in a position where you could see some expression on his face or add that interest to it, then I think it would all come together much better and be a more engaging photograph if I were able to see his face.
Okay, next up is Exponential Flow, Alan Wiggins.
Okay, slow water. I have seen so many slow water photographs lately, and that I admire the folks who are going out with their cameras and getting wet and doing this. This is probably could have stood for the lens or for the shutter to be even slower. 15, 20-second exposure perhaps with an ND filter might really make this just sing, because you've got the right amount of movement, and right now it's moving a little bit, enough to know that it's moving. You haven't stopped it in midair, but it needs to be longer. It needs to be set, probably shot, I'd say, bringing the camera down a little bit lower, looking at the water back the stream. That's my immediate thought. As it is right now, too, I'm looking at what looks like the rocks down in the front. No, it's pretty sharp all the way throughout. Now I'll withdraw that complaint. So yeah, get that ND filter and get tripod and try to get a long capture on that. I think it could really, that picture could really sing.
Okay, next up is A832 Wester Ross, The Highlands, Dow Smith.
Okay. Well, this is interesting. I was looking at some photographs by Mitch DeBrowner and his Storm series, and looking at clouds just like this, and it's perfect for a picture like this. And that there's not enough detail to distract from your main subjects, which is this terrific road and this beautiful old building on the left-hand side of the picture. I like the tonality of this. I like it's pretty good. It was done. Not how can I say it? It's a little bit flat because there's no direct sunlight, and that's not a problem with this. There were just so many good images in the competition this time. I just couldn't select this as one of the winners, but I really felt that it was thoughtful. It's got a very really desolate feel to it. And only thought I might have is see these nice stones along the side of the building. I'm missing some detail there. I don't know if you could select that out and just brighten that up a little bit. And to be able to see some form and texture there just might help help the whole building to stand out a little bit. You don't want it too much brighter, but you want enough to be able to see some detail there.
Okay, next up is The Photographer, Sean Sullivan.
Okay, yeah, there's so many people with their cell phones out and cameras and whatnot in the city. I'd love to go to Chicago and New York and just see who's taking pictures of what. This is interesting. I really had to work hard with this because the vertical lines, and then I look at this diagonal, the line across the tops of the windows left to right, it slants down. So I can't quite figure out how all that happened. And of course, all that's in juxtaposition to the frames around the three windows in the front. So, you know, it's you had to work a little bit at this picture, but it's really quite interesting. Now, the only worry I have about it, and one of the reasons I didn't select it, is there's a little technical issue to me. There's some fringing that happens whenever you try to contrast too much around a dark object. You see the guy's head on the left hand, top of his head. See that little white line right across. And you look at the rest of the characters, and then you look at around the frames of the windows, you see just a white line or fringing. And you have to be careful about when you do the black and white conversion and the contrast between the white and the dark. You end up with that. That takes away from it. I didn't need to see the detail here, but pictures of people, when you see their faces, are always far more interesting when you can do that. But I love looking at that, just the architectural details across the way there. It's good capture.
The reason it's tilted like this because it was taken at I'd say a 45-degree angle up.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. That makes sense then. Yeah. Yeah, my mind worked real hard when I saw that. I didn't quite know what it was doing.
Next up is Before Sunrise, Bill Lanahan.
Okay. Wow, what a gorgeous place. Let me see. This is one of those images. I don't know. The problem with it is that there isn't a wide range of tonality here. There isn't a great deal of contrast between these subjects. And, you know, sometimes I've been to places that are gorgeous like this, that's just the way the lighting is. But it's too overcast, it seems right now, to be able to get the contrast up that you would really like for this to have. Because you look out across here, you see this is it does have a great dismal tone to it, a dark tone to it, but it's just a little bit too dark overhead. It's a time of day or whatever, I don't know, but it's to be able to get that definition out. A bit more definition out of this would be good. Now, that said, composition, you got everything in the frame there that ought to be for this composition. It's just the light just didn't work quite the way you wanted to. And in my opinion at this point.
Okay, next up is Dad's Tool, number 2, Phil Olivo.
You know, this one brought some impact to me because my dad died 6 years ago at about 88. And I started photographing his tools, and they had such an emotional impact because when I looked at them, I remembered helping him, you know, holding a flashlight and all that. So they have a lot of memory to the maker, a lot of good feel to the maker. So you've got to do these things, and a whole series of these is really a wonderful thing. I really like this particular image because of the texture. I got a little bit confused on, and I'll say this about a number of these that are highly texturized. As of late, I've been seeing artists looking at the amount of texture that they add to these tools like this, like with texture and with contrast, and backing that off a little bit to have it just the other side of realistic, because mostly they don't pick up and capture the light. But if you ratchet up the texture tools and the contrast just a little bit, they look very realistic, but they also have a great deal of artistic impact. This is just right on the border, and I really liked it. I really did. There are a number of these in the collection, and I also really like the background on this. It's quite good. There wasn't a shadow in here that might have helped to differentiate the subject from the background.
Okay, next up is Mount Washington. How can I get it? Mount Washington Summit, Bill Lanahan.
Okay. Well, you know, because of because of where you are, you need to have all of that rock in the foreground in order for the viewer to understand where you are. The sign and the two characters. Silhouettes are really good. You got a nice clean sky up there behind it, so that you don't have any clouds competing with it. The foreground, I think that this needs to be a bit lighter and have more contrast and detail in it. It just it's a little bit flat. It's a lot flat the way it is, and even though you want to have about this particular level of tonality with the two figures on the top, this needs to have just a bit more detail and contrast, be a little bit brighter, I think, to work, but it does tell a story. And I also wonder if this might be even better if it were a vertical, if you it's a portrait crop instead of a landscape crop.
Okay, our honorable mentions. First up, Standing Tall, Linda Tomasulo.
Okay, this was a fascinating image to me because it's nice and sharp and crisp and reflective all the way up from the very bottom to the very top. You've done a very nice job of getting the thing situated close to center. I had trouble shooting the vessel in New York because I was trying to get the top of it to be perfectly straight with the top of the image, and you had a little bit of difficulty with that here. That might have a bit more impact if you could use the tools in Lightroom to get the top of the building directly in alignment with the top of the photo. These clouds are terrific. That's exactly the kind of clouds you want to have for something like this. And black and white also is exactly the right color for this, the right choice for this over color.
Okay, our next honorable mention, Forsaken, Nancy Funtner.
Yeah, there's so many old factories and warehouses and so on around that every one of them has a story. And I like this one because you could see, you could start off in the lower left-hand corner and you come in and you kind of walk up, and then you actually end up going toward, I'd said lower right, I'm at lower left corner. You walk toward that lower right corner because you see these stacks and shelves, and so it feels like it's a manufacturing facility, but it starts to tell its own story, what this place was. And getting the texture at this level is really quite good to get you to feel how gritty and dirty and old this is. But it's just a geometrically with that vent down in the lower left-hand corner, just really was the piece that made this. If you'd not had the vent there, this piece would not have been as successful as an image.
Hey, our next honorable mention is Dad's Tools, number 4, Phil Olivo.
Okay, this is a creative placement of these tools, and having these two together, all of the little marks and ticks and so on are really good. This is one of those, I think they might have been ratcheted up the texture just a bit more than I might have liked to have seen it. But that said, I don't hate it. It's really fine. But what is really interesting is that background again here. It just seems to be a background that carries the feel of the grittiness all the way through. And nice placement left to right. The rule of something like this, you'll see a lot of photographers will run it out of the left-hand bottom, run it out the right-hand top, and go diagonal and everything. I do that too. It's a little bit gratuitous. So I think that it's a brave decision to kind of put these coming in laterally from the left and the right like this, and you got your vertical lines, or your diagonal lines out of the jaws of the two pliers. So rambling on about it, but anyway, it's a fun picture. I really enjoy it.
Okay, our next honorable mention is Albany Great, Linda Tomasulo.
Yeah, in the old days, there are grates and manhole covers and so on that are still around today that just have a lot of character and pattern and interesting. And this one really worked well, and it mainly works because of that rectangle to the right, which I assume is the tab that you lift up to pull the grate up. And you've got these stones stuck in here. So I don't have to work real hard to figure out that it is a grate. You've got the stones there. So I think that having everything there the way it is and where you found it, and that placement of the grate, I think is just fine. There are some photographers, and I wouldn't think that if I were taking this image and playing with it a little bit, I might want to see if it has any more impact by cropping it down a bit from the top and a bit from the right to see if that rectangle closer to the right-hand top corner causes it to have enough tension to get to be exciting anyway. But I really liked it. I think it's kind of a fun picture.
Okay, next up is our last honorable mention is Lupine's Jewels, Alina Kesey.
Okay, yeah, boy, you see every hair on the sides of these petals coming up and down, and going with black and white with this was a pretty good decision, I think. And you got these concentric circles in the bokeh in the background. Now, one of the things I'm seeing that I'm trying to struggle with as a photographer myself is try how to get a bokeh in the background that isn't loaded up with noise. So there's a little bit of squiggly noise in the bokeh here that distracts a bit, and there are ways to take that out, and that's something to maybe to look at. The other thing is looking at the petals. I would like to have seen the petals be just a bit darker and to show a bit of just a bit of texture in them. That's the second thing. And the third thing, you don't want to mess with these with this dew or the water on these flowers too much, because they need to be bright for you to know that what these objects are. But they're pretty darn bright, and it might be that particularly the three largest ones, 1, 2, and 3, if they were not quite as bright as that, just a smidge lighter, it would be easier on the eyes and help me there. One of the things I'm finding in competition is if I'm competing, I'll take a picture and I'm done. If I'm sorry, if I'm not competing, I'll take a picture and I'll put it up on my website and it's done. If I am competing, I'll take a picture and I'll spend a lot of time. And a friend of mine, Chip Bolgen, who is a former professional photographer, said basically walk the four corners of the picture, put it down on a dining room table, look at it again and again, and before you decide on it. This thing is so close to being where it needs to be, and that's why it took a little time to kind of talk through those things. Just a beautiful image.
Okay. Winners. In 5th place, hot air balloon, Joe Catronio.
Okay. Beautiful capture. Having those, I don't know how you did this, because that balloon, there's not a wrinkle in it, there's not a dot or so on. You took a lot of care to make that balloon, the tonality of that just worked beautifully for this. And what takes it to the next level is those 5 people in the lower left-hand corner watching this, having been they're backlit because of the light from the flame and the balloon. And I do like the crop in this, because you don't have any more real estate that you needed to the left or the right to make this work. You got nice shadows there. And again, the tonality on this is just really absolutely gorgeous. So it's a nice image. But on to the next one, I guess.
Okay. In 4th place, Skywalks, Alina Kesey.
Yeah, I was very envious of the photographer on this one, because it has been to the vessel several times and just couldn't get the one I wanted. And the one picture I did take, the judge hated, so I'm not going to do that again. But this one, I just have those people standing out along the railing there, and you look at each one of them. They tell a story. You have it off balance, which is to say that it's horizontally, it's placed perfectly, and you don't want this to be one of the symmetric images. It feels a bit like it was kind of randomly selected, but obviously it was a very intentional composition on this. And you were very fortunate, because you got a good New York sky out of that one. That's a little bit gray and a little bit cloudy, that isn't going to compete with your images and the silhouettes. A little bit of reflection here. I really like this. I thought it had a nice feel to it.
Okay. And 3rd place, The Rose, Sean Sullivan.
Okay, that I've was in New York about 2 years ago, I guess. It took me a long while to finally get to 9/11 Memorial, and I remember being there at nighttime and seeing this, and it was really a very moving experience. And I think that the artist here has really captured this in a way that is really important. Having the lighting on that rose in the foreground and the names show its emotional impact. It just is very, very strong. I'm not sure whether the sky is added in later. I don't really care whether it's added in or whether it's part of it, but it just happens to really work to provide enough light to see the top of the tower in the background. And then, of course, it goes to dark off to the side. And obviously, there are too many people complaining too often about straightening up the vertical lines, the vertical lines and images. You didn't want to do that here. You wanted these buildings to point upward toward the pinnacle of that tower. So yeah, this is one of my favorite images in there, and I'm seeing Sean did that one. So
Thank you.
nice.
In second place, Northville Laundry, Kim Koza.
This brings back memories of home. I saw that one and I took me to 441 South Broad Street in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. So my mother did that every day, every Monday. And the light, it looks like the light's coming in either across the front of the background, but all that laundry is lit. The geometry between the two places and really nice tonality. Now, this is one of these things that I could argue with any artist about the how much tonality difference you need to have, the contrast between the dark and the light areas, and so on and so forth. Is this image technically perfect? Possibly not, because there will be people to complain about the edge of that comforter on the left-hand side of the line just touching against the frame, and that probably ought to have a little bit of breathing space there. So that's my criticism, for what it's worth. But that said, this just has emotional impact and of a bygone era that really makes it work. And that's why it really worked for me. And I appreciated the opportunity to be able to see this.
All right, and in first place, American Gamera, Neil Shapiro.
Yeah, well, my granddaughter spent all summer with me going out to ponds trying to photograph turtles. We didn't see any guys looking quite this good. And this is just a gorgeous picture. You've got some nice bokeh, really nice bokeh in the background. It does not compete with the foreground. And that bokeh doesn't have a lot of noise in it that's going to compete. That looks really good too. I like the fact that you've got the out of focus grass along the bottom of it that gives me context for where this animal is. But look at the details, the cracks and crevices all over his face, his head, his shell. It's just a wonderful, wonderful image. And the thing that really caps it off and makes it work is the fact that eye, I can see every bit of detail in the iris of that animal. But yeah, great image. So is that it?
We got the general due next. That was it for Monochrome. And I just want to tell you, your critiques are right on the money. People are enjoying them, so don't worry about that. You know, we enjoy having honest critiques, not just a judge who goes, "Oh, I like it. Well, that color's nice," or something. We like honest to make our photos better, so we want real critiques.
All right, I just want to make sure with this the face-to-face judging, I'd be parking in the furthest part of the parking lot so I can get out of town early. So
we have guard escorts when we meet.
Okay. All right, good.
All right, we're going to jump on to general now, which has got 38 images.
Okay.
5 places, 5 honorable mentions.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
All right. First image. Old Niski train station, Barb Lawton.
Okay. This the tone of this feels like an old sepia photograph, and I couldn't quite tell. Not that it mattered. I couldn't quite tell whether this was tone added to the picture or whether it was just that time of day. But I really like the sky and the color. If it had some drawbacks at all, this building on the left-hand side, it's really interesting photograph. It's okay. The sky's pretty plain. It's although it looks like there's a little bit of when I looked at it earlier, I won't say noise, but I couldn't quite tell what's going on there, whether that was added on later or not, but more or less, but that's not the issue. The issue, I would have selected out maybe the side and the foreground, the sides of the building, and you don't have to brighten it up a lot, but just enough to be able to make my eye go to it. Because when you look at images like this, your eye's going to go to the brightest thing first, and that's one of the darkest things on the images, on the image. But it is it's a great old place to capture. I also just this too. See this stand of grass out in the front. Provides nice context for the location. So I think that it's a great angle for the competition, shooting down low up at it a lot of good things to it. I would take it back and fiddle around more with the lighting on it, see if maybe that makes a difference.
Okay, next up is Adirondack Chills, Neil Shapiro.
Okay. Obviously, a long exposure to be able to capture this. Folks who are willing to go out in the cold night and shoot a camera toward the heavens, I admire them a lot. And so you did a really good job of picking that up. There's an awful lot of stars in this picture, and some of the I'm not sure how much of that might have been noise, and how much of it, and that's one of the things you have to struggle with depending on your ISO setting on night exposures like this. Probably was more heavily loaded with stars than it really was. You know, these are very hard to take, and I admire folks who are taking it. But you know what really is very nice for this picture is having the water with this reflection across the front and this haze hanging over the water in the foreground. You know, there are just not an awful lot of things to like about the picture. Again, I go back and play a little bit with that, with the stars, because I think it's going to have more impact if you dial back, use the denoiser or something, try to peel that back a little bit.
Okay, next up is Yin and Yang, Nina Kumar.
Okay. Well, you know, this one is capturing wild and domestic animals is really an art, and being able to capture them in a natural moment like this has its potential. I'm glad. Usually, I like to see a little action. Glad there isn't any action here because it might have not have been a good thing. The picture is going to be at a next ratcheted up to the next level on a couple of points. One is I see a pants leg or something on the left-hand side of the picture that doesn't help me get any context for the rest of the image. So I would even crop in and get rid of that. I see the artist has already cropped in some, and so that gets that out of the way. There's something about the color on this image that I couldn't get a handle on it, but it just felt like it was, it just wasn't dead on center. So I don't know what it is, but I would play with that a little bit. It might be that this was that you can use the saturation and so on to kind of adjust it, but the color just didn't hit me right. And I'm sorry I'm not more articulate on what that was. Now I have to tell you, my eye all keeps going to this medallion on this harness on the dog on the right, and it should be going instead to the face of the dog. So I don't know the solution to that, but that seemed to be such a big element in the image, and it was taken away from the impact.
Okay, next up is Coded, Nina Kumar.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out, it was a great opportunity here, and I would like to think about how I would have shot this, and I probably would have done exactly the same thing. Now, is it cropped? I'm seeing this bench on the right-hand side. I'm thinking that maybe there's a lot of foreground here that you don't really need. And maybe you could crop it up a lot closer, and from the bottom and from the right, so that bench, it becomes a much more prominent piece of the image. And I think when you do that, it's going to move to another level. Now, the other thing that was a little difficult here is so much of the image is the trees and the snow and the trees. You all are lucky enough to get snow on leaves before they come down up there, because we don't get snow here. Today's our first in a long time to have it this early in the season. So I'm envious for being able to get a situation like this. I would almost have gotten down on my knees and tried to shoot in here underneath those trees a little bit, and that might that angle just might be able to take that to the next level. So and it's a stupid decision, suggestion to say, go back and reshoot it under these conditions, since those conditions will never exist again. But that's just how it impacted me when I looked at it.
Okay, next up is Scaffold Shadows, Rich Schreibstein.
Yeah, this is a kind of a reverse leading lines in a way, because it seemed like the scaffolding that exits the image on the upper right-hand corner goes in reverse direction to the walkers all the way to the back. So it does sort of lead my eyes, but usually people, when I hear studies, is that people typically go from left to right in an image, or front or bottom to top. And so it's kind of going against the flow of the action. And I don't know, it's a geometry problem in a way. That's one part. The other part is these three characters are not as interesting as they might be. And one of my good friends, is about 88 years old right now, one of the best photographers I know. He would take the camera and go hang out someplace for hours to get the shot. And I think there's something to be had here. I think it might have been from a slightly different angle, number one. Number two, and trying to get some characters in here that are really going to tell a better story, or bigger story. Now, this is just my last picky comment. I kept looking at those little red tags on all these pipes. And I have two different computers I was looking at it on. One, it stood out more than another. And I think that they may have been distracting. So this might be something that this subject might work in a black and white better, where you're just looking at people and structures. Just a thought.
Okay, next up is Hungry Zebra, Nancy Funtner.
Oh, I tell you, I saw this and it really made me laugh. I love the expression on the zebra's face going after that carrot. Brave subject on the left here with their hand sticking out. I don't know what zoo this might have been that was allowing you to feed him, but what a great opportunity. And you've got probably the lights, the stripes could be whiter. The white stripes could be whiter. The dark stripes could be darker. Hard to get too exciting of an eye out of zebras, because there's not a lot of white in the eye. It's pretty much all black, all dark. But I might select out the eye and try to get a little bit more, get it to be brighter. So that might help. And the mouth be brighter. Now, you know, the only flaw to this thing, the only thing that really that makes it difficult for the image is the wire, is the fencing. You know, wild animals, when I go to the Baltimore Zoo, I try to find a place where I can shoot the animal and have no concrete or any signs of man anywhere around. And here, feeding is pretty good, but the fence got in my way of enjoying the picture, because it was a terrific moment.
Okay, next up is Spears of Influence, Ronald Spear.
Okay, yeah, this is, I puzzled on this thing for a long time, trying to think about what I was looking at. And my eye followed through to the background. So I kind of walked through from the foreground all the way back to the back. It seemed to be about the right focus level of sharpness most of the way through. And I was wondering out loud as I looked at it, if somebody focused stacked this and had it clear and crisp all the way back to that wall, that glass wall in the back, and have would that have made this image have greater impact? That was one thing. The other thing is, I mean, it's a great place. It looks like it's just be really interesting to photograph. Is it possible that you could have dropped down to a closer to floor level, going back through this and getting some kind of an interesting thing? So you got a really interesting subject here. What could you do to it to make it really, really interesting and make me look at a particular subject? Right now, the main subject in the back, if I'm walking back through all the way to that wall in the back, it's out of focus when I get there. And that's kind of the part that concerned me when I looked at it. But yeah, great opportunity to be able to find a place like this.
Okay, next up is Subway Ride, Marguerite Hill.
Yeah, this one made me laugh. I enjoyed seeing this for all the times I've been on the New York subway. And I don't know the answer to this because I don't do much street photography. Should I be attending to getting all the vertical lines up and down or not? I don't know. You know, I'm thinking it doesn't matter. But you could easily tilt this thing and get it to be vertically better. And but if you're OCD like I am, sometimes on these things, details like that, you get distracted. And what I did do is this image worked in the respect that I looked right at the woman in the middle, and I could see her just off in a dreamland. And then I looked at the other lady and the lady to her left on with her eyes shut. It told a great story, and I think that the processing was good, lighting was pretty good, and so on. It just there are an awful lot of really good images in here. And you know, as much as I love street photography like this, standing that up beside a piece of a gorgeous landscape from Iceland or something like that it's really hard to have these compete because they have a different visceral impact. So anyway, I don't know if that helps. I'm probably confused. The only thing I can say technically is maybe tilting it to be more vertically correct.
Okay, next up is Santa Claus Reunion, Nancy Funtner.
Well, okay, this obviously had a lot of post-processing to get it there. And where in the heck you found so many Santas, I have no idea. I didn't select it only because it's one of those art pieces that began as a photograph, and I do these all the time, and I don't take them into competition very often because judges just don't seem to get the visceral impact from it. The main problem, if it does have any problem to me, I would look for more contrast in the colors and more saturation. It's sort of like in a compressed level of contrast and range of colors. The range is not very wide. And I think that were it a little more colorful, a little bit more saturated, that would help. The second thing is I know that there's one of these guys in here I'm supposed to be looking at, but I don't know quite which one it is. It's easier if there's one that you can position it in a way that my eye goes immediately to it. And my eyes went all over the place with this.
Okay, next up is Blue Moon Oil and Water Abstract, Joe Catronio.
Okay, this is it feels like 2001 Space Odyssey all over again. I have no idea how you did this, or I do have a bit of an idea, but I don't think I could have done it. Really nicely done. Nice choice of colors for this too. I don't know if they're the original colors with the objects when you started putting together, but the nice rich gold and yellow and blue, they come from the right parts of the color wheel, so they go together really well. That's why to me, the colors really help to make it go really well. I have to say, the one color that didn't quite mix in with this as well as against artistic decisions, so I can't be critical, is the lavender that's to either side of the center piece. You go to the blue, then you go a little bit lavender, purpley color. I didn't find that color and it contributed to the impact of the image. But kudos to the artists on this, but it's just a really innovative and creative piece. I didn't give it an award primarily because there just were so many things that I like better at this point, but it's quite good.
Okay, next up is pleated woodpecker, Joe Catronio.
Okay, these pileated woodpeckers, man, they make a racket when you're in the woods and hear them. This is a nice capture. You've got the reflection, a little bit of a reflection of light out of the woodpecker's eye, so I feel like it's alive. It's not a I feel the life in the woodpecker, if you will. I really like the fact that you've got good realistic looking feathers on this image, on the bird, and the wood happened to work well for you. So all that, and being able to use a long lens, you get a really good bokeh in the background that doesn't have any details there that are going to distract you from looking that bird right in the eye. So all that worked really well. The piece that this is a picky thing, and so if you don't like this piece of advice, that's okay. But you see the stick coming up at the bottom that touches over his tail. Again, this is an OCD thing. I kept looking at that, and I'm thinking, like, wonder if that could be cloned out. So I just see the bird in complete profile here. So that's just a suggestion, but I've seen a lot of images of birds and other animals that have not made it through competitions because part of the anatomy of the animal has been obstructed. The view has been obstructed by sticks and things like that. Excuse me.
Okay, next up is Look Deep, Elena Kesey.
Well, I couldn't tell. This sort of felt like an IR photograph. I like to do a little bit of that. There's a extended range IR that's really kind of fun to play with. And the problem with IR is sometimes you end up with areas blown out and beside areas with a great deal of detail. And it's just really super hard to control. And I'm not smart enough to be able to make those images work as well as I'd like now. So however, whether it was IR or what it was, these purple leaves and this white ant kind of mess with my mind. I'm looking at it. I'm trying to understand what I'm looking at. I like the fact that the very center of this, the stalk of this plant is in the lower left-hand corner. See, I think it, and I don't think you'd want it moved any further from where it is. So it's off center. That works well. You've got these. The smaller leaf, the larger leaf, and one leaf in the background, slightly out of focus. All that's absolutely fine. What sort of had concern about was, if you will, is the leaf, the second leaf, I guess the leaf to the right. It's very light in that area there. There are a couple areas where the leaves got kind of blown, I won't say blown out, but they're lacking detail. I think that if one worked the image to get some more detail into these three main leaves here, the blue ones, to have some of the details similar to what's in the red brown one to the left, it might work just a little bit better because if the subject is the ant, it's interesting to have it there. The subject really is the pattern with these leaves in my own mind. And just a last thought is that little white patch down at the bottom and the white patches of light coming up around the spiral there. They're just a smidge distracting from the subject, and it's possible you could select that out and just darken that just enough that it doesn't leap out as being the first thing that hits me when I look at the picture.
Okay, next up is Colorful Leaf, Kim Koza.
Yeah, boy, this is a interesting color pattern, and having the brown and the green, and look up at the bottom of the photograph and the front with the veins and so on. You see a lot of detail in the front tip of that leaf. And then when you get about a third of the way back through the image, it starts to go soft on you. And so this is where an artistic decision needs to be made. You did not shoot this perpendicular to the leaf. Had you done so, the entire thing would have had that level of detail throughout. And you intentionally may have decided to shoot it at a diagonal so you could only get the front in focus, and then you'd enjoy the pattern in the back. From my vantage point, I think the leaf story might have been told a lot better if leaves tell stories anyway. if it had been shot in a more perpendicular angle right onto it, so you didn't have an out of focus area or focus stacked it or something, to be able to have that sharp all the way up through the top. And this is one of those symmetrical photographs. It doesn't need to be coming out of the lower right hand corner, the lower left hand corner to work. I think it's fine otherwise. So anyway, there's some thoughts on that.
Okay, next up is Vermont Countryside, Paul O'Keefe.
Okay. Wow, this is what a terrific place. And look at the old building over here. You're able to capture a lot of detail and grit and grime and look at that, and on the roof. So you've got an awful lot of texture throughout this image that we need to kind of figure out how to manage and make it work. And you've got a nice reflection in the water. Now the reflection in the water is obstructed by these weeds in the front. And boy, I think that this image would really have benefited from somehow being able to shoot over the weeds or around them or something, but they just get in the way of really enjoying the picture. Now, if you think about your eye going to the very light things, you got the light and the reflection and the water, and that's going to happen, that's fine. But the building itself is among the darker things in the image. And I think that in order for it to have a value in the image, it might work better if it were selected out and lightened up, not a whole lot more. I've said this a lot tonight, not lightened up a whole lot more, but just a bit more. So my eye is going to go over to this building because that's one of your biggest assets in the image. There's gorgeous yellow leaves across the back here. The sky, it's okay. I'm seeing here more and more judges lately saying you need to get a new sky. And I have some friends that say, old school, who say, live with the sky you got. So I don't know how to advise you on that, but I'd spend more time thinking about how to try to make that building just be a bigger asset for you in the image, and cutting weeds in the front.
Okay, our next image is I See You, Linda Tomasulo.
Okay, well, I love the picture of this horse. I saw that first thing, his ears are pointing straight up. You know, he's paying attention. He's looking and all that. And two thoughts on it, 2 or 3 thoughts on it. One is this is exactly the way to do this. With you got the frame of the leaves across the top, and you got the a little bit of blur along the back. You've got the weeds across the front. I know they're there, they're blurred, but being able to frame the image really sometimes makes it work really well. So couple of thoughts on this. One is the weeds in the front are really light. They distract me. So maybe they could be toned down. But the bigger issue here is the weeds are obstructing my view of the horse's nose and mouth. And the thing is, with the neck and the head kind of one on top of the other in the image, I need to see that mouth and nose in order to be able to have this kind of look natural and have context. So that's just it's just the way it's hitting me when I look at it. And then the second thing that with the image is the background. The background's pretty busy, and if you'd had if you take this, it had a smoother bokeh in the background, a little bit of texture enough to know that you're really in the woods, would be good. But there's an awful lot of things about this image that just I really liked, and I really enjoyed the horse. And then I only got distracted with some of these other things after I started thinking about the obstruction of the image in the front and the book. So food for thought.
Okay, next up is Serenity Now, Jerry Runt. Keep saying Gary. I don't know why.
Wow, this image I looked at for a long time. Beaches really do, under conditions like this, just give you some peace and quiet. I love the fact that the photographer recognized this as being suitable for and appropriate for a panoramic crop. So I don't have a lot of foreground along the bottom that's distracting me, and that's good. I don't have the negative, if you will, is when I do get to these rocks in the foreground. I know that that's probably a big piece of the subject there. It's kind of dead center, and that may not be the very, very best place in it, but you're kind of stuck, because if you want to show all the perimeter of that pool, that tidal pool there, you've got to shoot it exactly the way you have here, or come around to the left a lot and replace it. The only question I have is the sky could be more colorful. It's okay that it's not so busy and distracting. And it is Serenity. I look at it, it does, and it works in that regard. It's probably not as effective as a competition image, because, in other words, I'd put it on my wall and I'd look at it all day. But I think for a competition image, it's sort of like there needs to be some part of this that really hits me on the head when I look at it, and it's not doing that for me as a consequence.
Next up is Fire in the Sky, Ronald Spear.
Okay.
Fire.
There have been some spectacular skies with the weather. I don't know whether it's a lack of pollution or what it is as of late, though, but I've spent a lot of time outside. There are some skies that are just absolutely amazing. So a couple of thoughts here. One, did it really look this good, or did you ratchet it up a little bit more than it was naturally? And to me, it's hitting me. And I have a friend who hates all of my sunset pictures because they accuse me of oversaturating them, and maybe I do. But I would have not sure that it needed quite so much color as this, although that may have been exactly the way it was. So I'm not going to second guess the artist on that. I like the fact you've got that golden, that nice pink magenta band all the way along the horizon, from the right to the left. I think that's quite interesting. I'm looking at the picture and I'm feeling like it's not level. It seems to me like it runs downhill to the left-hand corner, and that's making me feel a little bit uncomfortable. Now I'm wondering if this is an opportunity to crop this image and get rid of some of the foreground. Is it possible that had that reflection been more thoroughly telegraphed back in the water, that maybe the sky and the water might have worked a little bit better? But I'm glad you're out there to capture this. It's very hard to figure out how to process these things. They look like they're easy, but they're not. But appreciate a chance to kind of muse over the elements of this image.
Okay, next up is View from the Clark, Carol Bell.
Okay. This particular location with this tree and the mountains and so on could be a really good location for a great photograph. This one had a really good start at it. Here are a couple of things that just random thoughts about this. One is this might have been even a better picture in when the foliage was up. Offhand, I just don't know, because I don't know that the sky is necessarily a key element here. But had you gotten the clouds to lighten up that patch of the mountain behind you there, and there have been some green color in the woods in the mountains behind you, A, B, C. The other thing would be, I love this old tree. There's just so much texture and so on and so forth. Thoughts about that might be try to go back and work the bark of that tree, lighten it up and contrast the texture there. I want to be able to see that leap off the tree there. I want it to really yell old at me. And you put it in the right place. It needs to be off to the left of the image. And the more I'm looking at it, and the more I'm thinking about that tree, if you can't go summer with green and with foliage, what would this do as a black and white? So just a few thoughts there. Maybe lighten up the bark, so texturize the tree bark and these craggy old limbs. Maybe there's something there with in the black and white that would take it to the next level.
Okay, next up is Smoking Mustang, Rich Schreibstein.
Okay, I like the whole thing here. It has there's a painter, I can't remember his name, that does stuff like this a lot, that just has a nice feel, and you can get a feeling of how maybe isolation, I guess, is sort of the theme with this character walking and having this puff of smoke out there is really makes it interesting. I don't know about the processing here. I don't quite understand it. It seems like it's very flat, and it could work well if it were the saturation were brought up a little bit, and the vibrancy and so on in these colors. Not that it's a great color photograph, but it's just too flat there. If you look at the tonality on the guy's jacket, and you look at other areas around it, maybe for example, if you contrast it, maybe that needs to be darker. Maybe these bricks need to be redder, or so on and so forth. I don't want to oversaturate it, but if you're going to stay with color, maybe. The other issue is with him walking away in a puff of smoke, I feel the isolation. But I do have a question about whether you get more impact if you see this guy coming towards you. Now, not that you're going to go over and say, hey, let's go reshoot that. That's not going to happen, but that was my immediate reaction to it.
Okay, next up is Potts Point, Maine, Dow Smith.
Okay, yeah, I've shot a few years ago, went up and hit all those little fishing villages all the way up the coast of Maine from Portland up to Bar Harbor. And it just brought back a lot of memories of a great trip and exactly the kind of lighting that you'll get there in the fall and other times of the year. You've got, and I like the position, I like the composition of the elements in here. You've got this boat on the left-hand side that obviously a work boat, and a terrific stack of traps, lobster traps, whatnot on the right-hand side, and these other boats in the back background, which kind of fill out, and so you get a whole context. So the whole thing just tells a story really nicely. Because, and this is a struggle that you run into in shooting in an environment like this where it is foggy. You want to make the use of the best use you can of the color, but if it sometimes it can go too flat. So I don't know quite what the solution is to this, but it seems like it's a little bit flatter than I might have liked, but I don't think the artist should kind of punch it up too much. I like the fact that there is a hint of a shoreline across the back here, and I suspect that that's all you're going to see of that. So I just don't know if any more could be done. But you know what? My eye keeps going to, and again, this is the OCD side of me, is the two antennas on the boat on the left-hand side go right up through the top of the photograph. Anymore when that happens, I just come down here a little bit and clone out the top of the antenna, just to be able to take that away, because there are people who are getting distracted with that stuff. Last thought, would the picture be any better compositionally if you cropped it up from the bottom and basically took the dock on the right-hand side right into the right-hand front corner? I wonder if that would give you enough water in the foreground and context to make that work. So just a few thoughts anyway.
Okay. Next up is Lobster Shack, Macro Cove, Maine, Dow Smith.
Okay, I've seen a lot of these. I really like this racks. These 1, 2, 3. I think there are 4 collections of the markers, and you got a lot of texture in this old building. I had a house had that kind of siding on it one time, and that's what happens with it. The rocks along the front told me offhand that there might have been a little bit too much processing on this image. This is one case where there's a bit more texture and a bit more color than there should be, and perhaps so on the red paint on the door and the trim of that building in the back. Now I don't see that being the case in the background. So I'm just raising questions. But compositionally, there are a bunch of things here that I'm trying to look at, and I'm distracted. I did this recently in a picture. I cropped it way too close on the right-hand side. Went back and recropped it and won the next month with it. And this one might take advantage of increasing the breathing space on the left-hand side, if you can do it. I don't know how the picture was shot, but it seemed like it's just a little bit too close there. And the rocks kind of distract me a little bit because they look like they've been processed up a little bit. In all, I think that any one of these clusters of markers might have made a picture unto itself. But with so many elements here, there were a lot of things competing with each other and with the color that I think there's a picture there. There are several pictures there perhaps. And I wouldn't throw this one away. I would go back and continue to work on it because I think there's something that's going to work here for the artist at one point.
Okay, next up is Dad's Tool, #1, Olivo.
More Dad's Tools. Okay, this is a different part from before, and it we saw something with. No, this is a general, so this could be monochrome, right? Theoretically.
No, it's got multiple colors.
Okay, all right. Oh, that's right. Okay, because I can see the tonality here. Yeah, a lot of good tone in color. Now there are places on this that are a little bit out of focus, and I might have considered doing a focus stack on this to try to get the wings of this nut on the left-hand side to be able to have them both have a little bit more texture, because if you got on the knurled part of it right here, the cross hatching, there's good level detail there. There's a good level detail on the other. I'm thinking that maybe this would work a little bit better with just a little bit more attention to the focus, and either take it back to f22 or consider doing a little bit of focus stacking, but don't make it so darn sharp that it puts your eye out. You know, it's got a lot of good character to it, like it is.
Okay, next up is the boots at last light, Lanahan.
Yeah, these buttes are beautiful. I love to go to Utah. As a place there I've been going back to every year for about 10 years. I see a lot of this. I love them at the this time of the day because the color just comes alive. Now you're fortunate here that you didn't have busy skies, so they didn't get in competition. And you get what you typically get is very bright butte here on the left-hand side. The next one over is darker, but more color and texture. Then you got all this grassland in front. So you got a couple artistic decisions here you have to make. How much of that foreground is really contributing to it? It does give you a context to where you are, but do I need to see all of that in order to really appreciate the image? And I would lean toward cropping back some of this. The big difficulty of these wide open spaces is you just can't capture it all. So sometimes you just have to make decisions and look at less of it and do it at a level of detail. Now, the problem I'm having with it is there's some really dark areas here, and it probably, and then the light area on this butte on the left. If you select that out, you can darken that down and get more texture there. And then likewise, take the darker one in the front of that and select that out and lighten it up and get them closer to more interesting to look at. But I think the easier way to do this is to shoot from this location at a different time of day. In other words, you do want to be late in the day. You want to be able to have the sun be up enough that it can lay in a little bit of sunlight right across the that slope going into that second butte. But that's, and make sure, you know, that bright part of I think there's a whole lot of information in those pixels that butte to the far left-hand side is very bright, could be really quite interesting and it contribute a lot to the image.
Okay, next up is Baseman, Alan Wiggins.
Okay, you know, this one is, I love this picture and I wanted to really give it a place, and I kept, it had one kind of fatal flaw and I don't know how you fix it. It's that microphone on the right-hand side. And it's one of those things you get obsessed, and it's a judging thing. You probably could put this on the wall and most people walk by and say it's a natural, it's a concert shot and that's the way it is. But that microphone is in the way. I would see if it's possible to clone that out, because why this works so well is I'm engaged with this bass player. He's really good. He's shown a great deal of enthusiasm. It's a terrific picture. And you get action. You can see movement in both hands, which contributes to your feeling like it's in concert and it's real. And I think what is also cool about the picture is you've got the front of that bass is white and the background is white, and it just kind of all fits together. It's a really, really interesting, and I hate not to have it win something because of that microphone, but I just believe that a little bit of handiwork on that, you could probably make that go the next time you bring it into competition. So a great picture. Wish I had taken it.
All right, next up, Oh Balls, Sean Sullivan.
Okay, well, all right, well, my 10-year-old granddaughter was looking at this picture with me yesterday, I have to say, and she zoned in right on what was going wrong. So you'd expect a 10-year-old. So before I did, I might add. You got some terrific color and action here and all that. The characters in the back, if indeed you do want to take photograph of children in juxtaposition with the genitalia of a bull statue, I would almost want to be right in your face and get up there close to it, because if they're the subject, they were having fun. Maybe there's a picture there. They are such a small part of the picture right now. I know where the bull is, and I know it's a great, nice statue there, but they're the story, and that's part of what I really wanted to see.
The story behind this is that there's actually a line of people standing in line on the back end of the bull,
Oh,
putting their kids and their girlfriends and everything else under the
oh
arm.
no.
It's sort of like the Rocky statue in Philadelphia.
Oh no. Okay. Hilarious. That is hilarious. I had no idea.
Next up is Cliffs of Moher, Phil
Okay.
Lebo.
Okay. Ireland for sure. And the musician in the foreground, I just looked at it, and I looked at her, and looked at the people up on the cliff, and it was two pictures. I get to see a picture of her by herself would be really quite interesting. She's in costume and so on, and the gritty concrete behind it. But I also looked at that line trail running out to the cliffs where so many people were, and I know that they're two in juxtaposition, but they were fighting with each other in the composition. I didn't know which one to look at, and I don't even know if there's a way to angle yourself to have her in the foreground and shoot low and be able to have that cliff off in the background, out in focus or out of focus. I'm not sure, to capture them, but it seems like they're just too far apart in juxtaposition to be able to make it work. All that said, I really enjoyed this picture, and I loved the seeing her in costume there and so on, and it just contrasts so much with the guitar and long hair buskers you see, in the cities of our country. So I enjoyed seeing the picture.
Next up is Dawn at Cadillac Mountain, Sal Steinberg.
Okay, yeah, that's Cadillac Mountain. Okay, all the photographers and everybody watching the sun go down, and then hang around there a lot. You do some Milky Way shots if you get the right time of the year too. Now here's a couple of thoughts on this image. One is, I saw what appeared to be a fair amount of noise in the in the blue sky. I didn't see it so much when you got down into the pink band here. So first question is, I'm not sure that all that blue sky up there really contributes to the image. This thing in a panoramic crop, and getting rid of all that blue up there just might take this to another level. And this is one I don't think I need to have the I don't think I need to have any more detail. And the last silhouette we looked at, I suggested more detail in the rocks with Mount Washington. This one with Cadillac Mountain, they're not going to contribute, I don't think, to the image. But I'm almost starting to see the image not involving the folks on the right-hand side of the picture. I think maybe it's the person with the phone out on the right-hand side. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people over there. You could, if you had enough pixels and crop in that close, that may be your picture there. And I think the red sky really carries it for you, if you would. So.
Okay. Next image is Painted Hills, Bill Lanahan.
Painted Hills. I love the colors here. I love the colors here because I wasn't quite sure if it was a fully natural color, but in looking at the landscape, the other one with the buttes, where there was a dark area here, there was this is dark in the foreground as well, but it doesn't bother me to look at that mound in the front and to have it dark. I get the idea what the context is for my image. I don't want to lose any more of the foreground than I have. And then I look off to the left, so my eyes looking at the mound, and then off to the left over those rolling hills to the left of the image. And they're just absolutely gorgeous, and there's nice long shadows lying across the hills. The picture is just really, really beautiful. And it's, again, a lot of judges are saying they want to have pop out the sky, take it into Skylum 4 and get a brand new sky in there and make it look good. I don't think you want to have a sky that's too busy or too interesting. This really, I get the idea of the context of where we are with these clouds. They're not obtrusive. It's the whole story is all in those rolling hills off to the left.
Okay. Honorable mentions. Our first honorable mention. Church with Red Doors, Kim Koza.
Okay, this is an image that kind of spoke to me when I looked at it. Each time I kept going back to it, and I got caught up. Even though the door is red there, I got caught up in the geometry of the bracing on the front of that port of that church there, and I found that extremely interesting. And then the more I looked at the rest of the railing around it, it's all architectural. I see that the red door there on the left-hand side is placed perfectly compositionally, because the lower left-hand corner, it just supports the rest of it. And you don't have a busy sky that's just plain and clean. It just reflects what a nice white, like the base. You had the white background, the base, you had the base is white. And this is similar. You have a almost white sky, and you have this white church in the foreground. It just really worked for me. Now, I have to say, sometimes something works, even though technically it isn't perfect. It looks to me like the top of that steeple isn't really perfectly aligned, and it might be that one could have taken it into Photoshop and used some of those horizontal vertical distortion tools to kind of get that working better. The bottom of the steeple is a little bit off. But oftentimes I will look at something, if it just has an impact, that emotional impact, takes you back to a time and a place, that's more important than having every little pixel in perfect position.
All right, our next honorable mention is Angel's Light, Ron Herden.
Okay, I have to say, I've seen so many pictures of Angel's Light, and I'm envious of all my friends who've gone there. I want to go there. I just always end up in the eastern Utah instead, in southern Utah instead of Arizona. So I think it's a probably pretty close to flawless image. This is hard to shoot because everybody does shoot it, and trying to get an angle that's different from everybody else's and takes advantage of the shadows and the details and so on. That's the thing that's really important. I really like the image, and that's another one I'd stick up on my wall as well.
Okay, our next honorable mention, Markin Cafe, Sharon Silversmith.
Okay, yeah, this one, it's the mood that it carries through, and you've got good natural lighting supporting it all the way through. It's one of the things I really like about the newer cameras, and the newer digital cameras are so good in low light situations. And this is particularly done well because you see the detail out the window. I don't see the detail in the sky, but I see this other building over here. And it does walk me from the front left-hand corner. I don't know if it's exactly leading lines, but it does walk me from the lower left-hand corner up through the middle of the image in the back. And it makes me hungry looking at it, since I haven't had dinner, but just liked it a lot.
Yeah, our next honorable mention is Windmill, Sal Seinberg.
This image was so close to a Dutch painting that I took a long time to look at it, and it's got a lot of interesting elements that you can look at it all day long. You got the water, I know where it is. It's obviously Dutch, but look at the that lower blade on the windmill, how it's the windmill itself is lit right under that blade and almost fades into the background. And I think that that actually makes it work really well. And I see these craggy trees coming up in the left-hand margin of the image, and that works really well too. But what's interesting is, to me, is looking at this, just flawlessly captured the light and all that, and you see this building, modern building off to the right along the horizon, and then you see an obviously an older building on the horizon. It's silhouette and on the horizon on the left of the little smokehouse or whatever that is, down toward the front. So a lot of things that came together with this, and I like the fact that you moved it off center so that I could sit back and enjoy it without feeling like I was locked into it. So nice color, nice tonality, and nice processing on this.
Okay, next, last honorable mention is What You Looking At? Sean Sullivan.
Yeah, this is great. Boy, you've got dead on sharp focus. I can see the reflections in the eye and catch lights in both of the eyes, details across the nose of this critter. My granddaughter's got a couple reptiles and amphibians at her place and her house, and always enjoy seeing what people can do with them. This is just really a lot of fun. What's probably see this brown leaf coming up across over here on the right hand side. You know, it's because it's a little lighter, it's distracting a bit from a terrific capture. And I don't suggest you get rid of that side of the image. It certainly would be a good image if you cropped the right hand third of it away. But you know that that could be selected out and just darkened or vignetted or something, to just so I don't look at it. So just a thought for the artist on that. And what else can I say? And I'm normally, you know, this leaf comes right up here. It almost obstructs the animal. It doesn't. It's a bit out of focus. I would almost darken that a bit too, so it doesn't distract. So I just want to zone right in on this little frog.
And our winners. In fifth place, Pumpkins, Larry Hill.
Okay. Well, Larry took a lot of time here, obviously, to set this up and get the right mix of objects for the season and the candles. So I think that the setup is really creative, and I think that the lighting is quite effective in getting out the. I want to see the lines on that pumpkin to the far right in the background. I see the detail and the pumpkin, the gourd pumpkin in the front. I guess it's still pumpkin. I see less so on the right-hand side, and it's almost blown out a little bit on that front pumpkin here that's near the candle. That edge is just a little bit lighter than I might have liked it. I would just wanted to be able to see that detail, and it's okay to have some of those areas in the front here go to the dark. So I think that you know, putting together a still life like this and getting the elements come together is really interesting. It looks like it might have been some focus stacking or something to be able to, because it's pretty sharp in the front and pretty sharp all the way back through. So if you use that tool, or if you're able to do it some other way, kudos on that. That really worked. Worked quite well for an image for me, good background, so on.
Okay, in fourth place, Sunset Cruise, Barb Lawton.
Wow, you know what? This is one of those that leaped off the page, leaped off the computer screen at me when I saw this. That being able to be at the right elevation, high enough up to be able to pick up the boat, that front left corner, and then those ripples and waves all the way back. It's really a real accomplishment. I've tried to do some of this. It's really hard to do. The other thing that's interesting is this color. Hopefully, it's a sunset color. You may have artificially induced this color, and I'm not going to say that that's a bad thing. That's really what kind of makes it looks like just a big piece of gold with a pattern in it, and having enough air breathing space in front of the boat in the front left hand corner is absolutely the right thing to do. Had you pushed it closer to that corner, the whole impact I think would have it would have been out of balance. It wouldn't have felt right. So yeah, nice, very nice capture on this
Okay,
and process.
in third place, Get Your Own Flower, Linda Tomasulo.
Yeah, I am really, really envious of the photographer on this one because you've got every bit of this. I think it's a goldfinch. I assume I've got a whole bunch of these in my backyard right now, but they're not very gold this time of the year. And you got every square inch of it is in detail. I can see the little fluff of feathers down near the leg. I see these flowers, and you see a great deal of detail on these flowers. So I don't know how the heck you got this done. It's not focus stacking, but it's all very nice and sharp and clean. And it's got such just a slightly pastel picture. It's not an in-your-face goldfinch. It's an unusual color treatment for the bird, but I like it. It feels more like a golden bird rather than a goldfinch this way. So yeah, I was really envious when I saw this picture.
All right, in second place, Red Canoe, Alan Wiggins.
This picture, probably more than any other I looked at this evening, just seemed to tell me a story. And I know I hear that too much from judges who are looking at pictures because how much of a story can you tell from looking at one image? But I see the boat in the background. I see these two bright yellow oars and the red oar, but immediately I see what appears to be this. I think the figure in the foreground looks to be someone with white hair. So since I'm 73, I always relate to older people. So I think that it just has such a storytelling nature to it. I think the crop is absolutely right. You want to be able to pick up all the way out on these oars. Had this picture not had that white boat up on the shore, it probably wouldn't have worked. But somehow I look at that, I look at the boat, back to the canoe, back to the boat, and it just makes you sigh and feel something that and I can't describe it. It just tells me a story that I would love to know what was going on there.
Okay, and our first place winner is Alina Kesey with Bye Bye Autumn.
Yeah, this one, when I went through the pictures the first time, this just popped out at me, much like the previous one. I mean, there are so many nice images here this evening, and I apologize for all the critiques I'm giving on how to make them. The ones that did not win, there were so many nice qualities of these images. They're just so close there, and then every now and then somebody gets everything together exactly right. And I know I complained a bit this evening about pictures that you see the back of a dog or the back of an animal, or it's obstructed, or the back of a subject walking away. The tail is the story here, and that's why this works. I love this picture. And I love the fact that you've got, whether you put them there or not, it doesn't matter. These leaves and pine cones up front, along with this beautiful pumpkin, and it kind of comes in and curls to the left. There's question, it's pretty close to the center of the image. Had it been dead on the center, it just wouldn't have worked. You just moved it enough off center to make it enough imbalance that it really just spoke to me when I looked at it. So it feels fall. And I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed all these images. I really appreciate the chance to look at them and just kind of babble on a bit about what they did when I looked at them.
Well, thank you, Ron. Congratulations to our winners. People can unmute themselves now if they want, if they have questions.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. It really helpful to get these kind of critiques. Marilyn gave us one last week. I'm sure you know her. She judged as well, and we were just bowled over by the commentary as well as yours tonight, because you've given us such helpful hints and tips on how to improve, and that really is appreciated. So don't berate yourself because you thought we might have been a little harsh. You weren't at all. Very appreciative.
Well, part of the message is this. I've had a lot of images. Two things happen to me to images that fail. Sometimes it's a perfect image, and the judge, it just doesn't relate to the judge, and that's in that case. If I love the image and it worked for me, don't give up on it and bring it back in for another competition. So that frequently happens. Sometimes my experience makes some of these things, like the close on the wire on the line. It just really took me back 50 years, 60 years. But the other thing that happens is sometimes when you take a picture, you look at some particular piece of it, it's just so relates to you so well. You look at it on your computer screen when you're done, and all you see is that particular part of the element, that particular element in the picture that you love, and you forget about all the other elements that are conflicting with it or that are flaws. And I do it every time, and the only way I fix that problem is I take a picture I really like, I print it out, I throw it on the dining room table, or I go to lunch with a friend, and I'll say, what am I missing here? And that's where, so I try to get my critiques from people before I go into competition. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So it just is.
Well, we appreciate your effort, that's for sure.